The massive detention ship Void Crusher cut through the darkness of space like a metal predator hunting its prey inside its cold metal belly. 17-year-old Kai pressed his face against the small porthole, watching his home colony of New Geneva shrink into a tiny dot of light. The blue and green world where he had grown up building robots and fixing spacecraft engines was disappearing forever. Heavy footsteps echoed down the corridor as the hegemony guards approached his cell. Their reptilian faces showed no emotion as they unlocked the energy barrier keeping him trapped. One guard was tall with purple scales that gleamed under the harsh lights, while the other had forearms and skin that looked like living metal. "Time to face judgment, human worm," hissed the purple-scaled god named Thorax. His voice sounded like broken glass scraping against stone. "The tribunal awaits your pathetic excuses." Kai's hands were bound with plasma cuffs that burned his wrists whenever he moved. He had been wearing the same dirty engineering jumpsuit for 3 days since his rest. The smell of fear and sweat clung to him like a second skin. His black hair hung in messy strands over his tired eyes. The guards dragged him through corridors filled with alien prisoners from across the galaxy. A creature with tentacles for arms reached out from behind energy bars, trying to grab Kai as he passed. Another prisoner with glowing red eyes and razor-sharp teeth clicked and whistled in a language Kai couldn't understand. The detention ship was a floating nightmare carrying the worst criminals to distant prison worlds. They finally reached the tribunal chamber. A massive room with walls made of some kind of living metal that pulsed with blue veins of energy. The ceiling stretched up so high that Kai couldn't see the top. Floating platforms held different alien species who served as judges, jury, and witnesses. Some looked like giant insects with multiple eyes. Others were blob-like creatures that changed colors as they spoke. At the center of it all sat the 3-judge panel on a platform that hovered 20 feet above the floor. Judge Kralax looked like a massive turtle with a shell covered in glowing symbols. Judge Vex resembled a floating jellyfish with electric tentacles that sparked and crackled. The 3rd judge, Morik, appeared to be made entirely of living crystal that reflected rainbow light. "Bring forward the accused human," boomed Judge Kralax in a voice that shook the entire room. Kai was pushed onto a small platform that lifted him up toward the judges. As he rose, he could see hundreds of alien faces staring down at him with disgust and hatred. To them, he wasn't a person with dreams and feelings. He was just another primitive human who dared to challenge the mighty hegemony from another platform. Enforcer Vorth stood up and spread his forearms wide. The blue-scaled alien wore a uniform covered in medals and honors from his years of service. His yellow eyes glowed like twin suns as he pointed one clawed finger at Kai. "Honorable judges," Vorth began, his voice smooth like poisoned honey. "This human terrorist destroyed 3 power stations on New Geneva colony. His primitive species cannot be trusted with advanced technology. They are violent, unpredictable, and dangerous to civilized beings throughout the galaxy." Vorth activated a hologram that showed security footage of explosions ripping through important buildings on New Geneva. The images looked real, but Kai knew they were fake. He had been in his dormitory studying for exams when those explosions happened. His roommate Tai could prove it, but Tai was still back on the colony, probably scared to speak up against the hegemony. "As you can see," Vorth continued, "this human used his engineering knowledge to build bombs. He targeted our most important facilities, trying to cripple our ability to protect the innocent colonists on New Geneva. Without swift justice, other humans will follow his example, and the entire Outer Rim will fall into chaos." The alien audience made sounds of anger and disgust. Some clicked their mandibles. Others roared through multiple mouths, and a few shot streams of acidic spit that sizzled against the floor. They wanted blood. And Kai was the perfect target for their hatred. Judge. Vex's electric tentacles sparked brighter as she spoke in a voice like thunder. Human, you stand accused of terrorism against the hegemony. How do you answer these charges? Kai's voice cracked as he tried to speak. His throat was dry from fear and 3 days without proper water. I'm innocent. He managed to whisper. I never hurt anyone. I was studying in my room when those explosions happened. The alien crowd erupted in mocking laughter. Some threw small objects at Kai's platform, while others made rude gestures with whatever appendages they had. To them, his words were just the desperate lies of a caught criminal. Judge Morik's crystal body flashed different colors as he rendered his judgment. This human will be exiled to Kepler for to be a death world on the outer rim. There he can contemplate his crimes while trying to survive among the savage beasts that inhabit that cursed planet. Kai felt his world collapse round him as the sentence was announced, just as Judge Morik's crystal body began to glow with the light of final judgment. A small transport shuttle burst through the tribunal chamber's main entrance. The sleek silver craft wobbled dangerously as it landed on the main floor with a loud crash that sent sparks flying everywhere. Smoke poured from its damaged engines while warning lights flashed red and blue. The alien audience gasped and pointed as the shuttle's door hissed open. Out stumbled a young human woman carrying a battered briefcase and what looked like 3 different datapads held together with repair tape. Her long black hair was messy and tied back with a piece of wire. She wore a wrinkled grey suit that had seen better days, and one of her shoes had a broken heel that made her walk with an awkward limp. "Sorry I'm late," she called out, waving her arms frantically. Traffic was crazy in the asteroid belt, and then my navigation system started speaking only in ancient Vulcarian poetry. And I may have accidentally flown through a solar flare on the way here. The woman looked round the massive tribunal chamber. With wide, nervous sighs, she seemed completely overwhelmed by the hundreds of alien faces staring down at her with mixture of amusement and disgust. Her hands shook as she tried to organize her scattered papers and broken datapads. "Hi everyone," she said with a nervous smile that showed she had no idea what she was doing. "My name is Hannah, and I'm here to represent the defendant. I mean, if that's okay with everybody, I brought phones. But I think my coffee spilled on them during that really bumpy part with the space pirates." Judge Kralax's massive turtle head tilted to one side as he studied this strange human woman. "You claim to be a legal representative. What are your qualifications, human?" Hannah fumbled through her briefcase and pulled out what looked like a crumpled piece of paper. "I have my certificate right here somewhere. I graduated from New Terra Lore Academy last month. Well, actually it was 6 months ago, but I've been studying really hard since then. I even read 3 whole books about hegemony lore. Though one of them was mostly pictures." The alien prosecutors began laughing so hard that some of them fell off their floating platforms. A creature that looked like a giant praying mantis clicked its mandibles in amusement while pointing at Hannah with one of its sharp claws. Another alien that resembled a walking cactus shot streams of purple liquid from its mouth while making sounds that might have been laughter. Enforcer Vorth stood up on his platform, his blue scales gleaming with confidence, his forearms crossed over his chest as he smiled with a mouth full of razor-sharp teeth. "Honorable judges, surely you cannot allow this amateur to waste the tribunal's valuable time. Look at her. She can barely operate her own equipment, let alone challenge the ironclad evidence against this terrorist." As if to prove his point, Hannah accidentally dropped one of her datapads. It clattered across the floor and exploded in a shower of sparks when it hit the wall. She scrambled after it on her hands and knees, her broken shoe making the whole scene even more ridiculous. "Oops," she said, gathering up the smoking pieces. "That one had all my notes about jurisdiction and stuff. Good thing I wrote backups on these napkins from the spaceport cafeteria." Kai watched from his platform with growing horror. This was his defender, this clumsy woman who couldn't even keep her own equipment working. He felt his last hope dying as Hannah struggled to stand up without falling over again. The alien audience was having the time of their lives. They pointed and laughed while making bets on how quickly this human lawyer would embarrass herself. Some aliens started throwing small objects at Hannah's feet just to watch her stumble around trying to avoid them. Judge Vex's electric tentacles sparked with what might have been amusement. "Very well. Human, you may represent the accused, though I suspect this trial will be mercifully brief. Present your case." Hannah looked round nervously and pulled out a handful of napkins covered in barely readable handwriting. "Okay, so I think my client is innocent because..." She squinted at her notes, turning them upside down and sideways. "Because he's really nice and he likes to fix robots and stuff." The laughter from the alien crowd became so loud it shook the walls of the tribunal chamber. Even the judges seemed to be enjoying this pathetic display of human incompetence. Enforcer Vorth activated his holographic evidence again, showing the explosions on New Geneva in perfect detail. "As you can see, the evidence is overwhelming. This terrorist used his engineering skills to build sophisticated bombs that devastated our infrastructure. No amount of amateur human sympathy can change these facts." Hannah nodded along as if she understood, but then raised her hand like a student in school. Excuse me, but could you show that part again? The exploding part. I think I saw something weird in the background." "There is nothing weird about solid evidence," Vorth sneered, "unlike your pathetic attempt at legal defense." Hannah's face turned red with embarrassment as more aliens joined in the mocking laughter. She looked so lost and confused that even Kai started to feel sorry for her instead of angry. 3 years earlier, on the planet Zirion Prime, a different courtroom had witnessed something that would change the galaxy forever. Dr. Hanley stood before the Supreme Hegemony Council wearing a pristine black suit, her voice cutting through the chamber like a laser blade as she presented evidence that would bring down 3 corrupt governors and expose a crime network spanning 12 star systems. Back then, she was known as the Human Hercone, legal genius who could memorize entire planetary law codes in a single night and speak 17 different alien languages fluently. Her reputation struck fear into the hearts of corrupt officials across the galaxy. When Dr. Hanley took a case, guilty parties started packing their bags for prison worlds. The case that made her famous involved the illegal slave trade on the mining planet Korvax 7. Thousands of human colonists had been secretly sold to alien crime bosses who forced them to work in deadly crystal mines. The hegemony officials claimed ignorance, but Hannah spent 6 months gathering evidence that proved they were taking bribes to look the other way on the day of the trial. Hannah had walked into that courtroom carrying nothing but a single datapad and her brilliant mind. She faced off against 12 of the galaxy's most expensive lawyers, all hired by the corrupt governors. The alien media called it David versus Goliath. Except this time David had a law degree and photographic memory. For 8 hours straight, Hannah systematically destroyed every lie and cover-up the prosecution tried to present. She quoted obscure laws from planets most beings had never heard of. She presented financial records that showed exactly how much each official had been paid. She even played secret recordings of the governors laughing about the stupid humans they were selling into slavery. When the dust settled, 3 hegemony governors were sentenced to life imprisonment on the notorious prison planet Tartarus 9. The crime network was completely destroyed, and over 5,000 human slaves were freed. Dr. Hanley became a hero to oppressed beings everywhere, but she had also made powerful enemies. The corruption went deeper than anyone realized. Within hours of her victory, assassination attempts began. Plasma bombs were planted in her apartment on New Terra. Poisonous gas was pumped into her office. Robotic assassins disguised as cleaning droids tried to kill her while she slept. The crime bosses she had destroyed wanted revenge, and they had allies in high places. Hannah was forced to fake her own death during a convenient transport accident over the volcanic planet Inferno 3. Her shuttle was supposedly destroyed by a solar flare, leaving no trace of her body. The galaxy mourned the loss of its greatest legal champion, but secretly, Hannah had escaped to begin a new life in hiding. She underwent surgery to change her appearance slightly and learned to suppress her natural confidence and intelligence. The brilliant lawyer became a clumsy, nervous woman who seemed afraid of her own shadow. She took a new identity and moved to the outer colonies where nobody would recognize the famous Dr. Hanley. For 3 years, she lived quietly on a farming world called Greenhaven, helping local colonists with simple legal problems like property disputes and contract issues. She pretended to be just another failed lawyer trying to make an honest living far from the bright lights of the core worlds. The hardest part was acting incompetent when every instinct told her to fight injustice wherever she found it. But everything changed when she received an encrypted message on her hidden communicator. The message was short but devastating. Kai, arrested. Terrorism charges. Death sentence likely. Trial on detention ship Void Crusher. Help him, sister. The message came from their childhood friend Tai, who had been smart enough to use an untraceable communication method. Hannah's hands shook as she read the words again and again. Her baby brother, the gentle boy who used to build toy robots and dream of becoming an engineer, was facing execution for crimes she knew he could never commit. Hannah spent that entire night pacing round her small apartment, torn between staying hidden and saving her brother. If she revealed herself, the assassination attempts would start again. Worse, if her enemies discovered Kai was her brother, they might kill him just to hurt her. But she couldn't let an innocent boy die for crimes he didn't commit. The decision became clear when she remembered their parents' last words before they died in the New Geneva colony collapse 7 years ago. Take care of each other. Their mother had whispered with her dying breath. Family is all we have in this cold galaxy. That night, Hannah dug up her emergency supply kit buried beneath her garden. Inside were fake identification papers, credits, and a worn photograph of her and Kaya's children, building sandcastles on the beaches of Old Earth. She looked at that picture for a long time, remembering when they were just two kids who believed the universe was fair and good. Now she had to become someone new again. Not the brilliant Dr. Hanley, and not the quiet farmer she had been for 3 years. She had to become the bumbling, incompetent lawyer named Hannah who would be so pathetic that nobody would suspect her true identity. The moment had come. Hannah looked up from her scattered napkins and broken datapads, and something shifted in her eyes. The nervous, clumsy woman who had been stumbling round the courtroom suddenly stood perfectly straight. Her shaking hands became steady as steel. The fear in her voice vanished completely. Actually, she said in a voice that now carried the authority of someone who had never lost a case, I'd like to examine that evidence more carefully. The change was so dramatic that even the laughing alien fell silent. Hannah walked across the courtroom floor with confident steps, her broken shoe somehow no longer making her stumble. She moved like a predator who had been pretending to be prey. Enforcer Vort's yellow eyes narrowed as he watched this transformation. Something was wrong, but he couldn't figure out what. The evidence speaks for itself. Human. Your amateur questions cannot change facts. Hannah smiled, and it wasn't the nervous grin from before. This smile was sharp enough to cut diamonds. Let's see about that. Enforcer. Computer. Display the holographic evidence at quarter speed and enhance Section 7 Alpha. The courtroom's advanced computer system responded instantly to her commands, which surprised everyone since most humans couldn't even figure out how to turn the lights on. The explosion footage began playing in slow motion, revealing details that had been hidden before. Interesting, Hannah said, walking round the holographic display like a detective examining a crime scene. Computer, cross-reference the blast pattern with standard human explosive devices from the past 50 years. Data streams filled the air on the hologram, showing technical specifications and blast signatures that made the alien judges lean forward with confusion. The computer's mechanical voice announced, "No match found. Blast pattern consistent with hegemony military-grade plasma charges. Model XK7. A murmur of surprise rippled through the alien audience. Those weapons were only available to high-ranking hegemony officials. Humans weren't allowed anywhere near that kind of technology. Vorth's blue scales began to lose their color as panic set in. The computer must be malfunctioning, primitive. Human terrorists often steal our weapons. Oh, really? Hannah's voice carried a dangerous edge that made several aliens step back. Computer. Display the security footage from New Geneva's weapons storage facility for the past 6 months. New holographic displays appeared showing the heavily guarded military warehouse where the hegemony kept their most dangerous weapons. The footage showed Enforcer Vorth himself entering the facility multiple times, always alone, always during night shifts when other guards were absent. Computer, enhanced timestamp 2387. 4.15 at 03 for 7 hours. The image zoomed in to show Vorth clearly, removing 3XK7 plasma charges from their secure storage containers. The courtroom exploded into chaos. Alien shouted in dozens of different languages while pointing accusingly at Vorth. Some demanded immediate justice while others called for a full investigation. The 3 judges had to activate their authority, fields to restore order. But Hannah wasn't finished. She pulled out what everyone thought was just another broken datapad. But when she activated it, the device projected a 3-dimensional map of the entire New Geneva colony. Red dots marked the locations of the 3 explosions. Computer, overlay the colony's power grid and transportation networks, she commanded. New lines appeared on the map, showing how electricity and supplies moved through the colony. The 3 explosion sites formed a perfect triangle that would have cut off power and supplies to the human residential districts while leaving the alien government buildings completely untouched. Fascinating, Hannah said, her voice now carrying the authority of someone who had spent years studying military tactics. The placement of these explosions would have created maximum fear among human colonists while causing minimal damage to hegemony interests, almost as if someone wanted to justify increased security measures and reduced human freedoms. She turned to face Vorth directly, and her eyes blazed with the intensity of a star-going supernova. When she spoke, it was in perfect high hegemonic, the ancient formal language that only the most educated beings in the galaxy could understand. Enforcer Vorth of the 7th Fleet. You stand accused of false flag terrorism, evidence tampering, and conspiracy to commit genocide against human colonists under Hegemony Law Article 847, subsection 12. Any official who uses military weapons to frame innocent civilians shall face immediate tribunal and exile to the void prison of Keplerforfer to see. The alien audience gasped. Even the judges looked shocked that a human could quote such obscure laws in perfect ancient dialect. Vorth's forearms began shaking as he realized his carefully planned frame job was falling apart. "You're just a pathetic human lawyer," he screamed, his composure finally cracking. "How dare you quote our sacred laws at me?" Hannah's smile became even more dangerous. "Computer, run a facial recognition scan on my biometric data and cross-reference with all hegemony legal databases." The computer's analysis beam swept over Hannah's face, and within seconds, alarms began blaring throughout the tribunal chamber. Emergency lights flashed red as the computer's voice boomed. "Identity confirmed. Dr. Hanley, human legal advocate, wanted for questioning in 17 cases of major hegemony corruption. Presumed dead for 3 years." The revelation hit the courtroom like a supernova explosion. The tribunal chamber erupted into complete chaos as the truth about Dr. Hanley's identity spread like wildfire through the alien crowd. Security drones immediately descended from the ceiling, their red scanning beams sweeping across every face in the room. The massive detention ship's alert systems began blaring warnings about a high-priority fugitive being detected on board. Judge Kralax slammed his giant fist against his floating platform, creating a sound like thunder that shook the entire chamber. "Order! Order in this tribunal!" His booming voice finally cut through the noise as hundreds of aliens fell silent, staring at the human woman who had just revealed herself to be the galaxy's most wanted legal genius. Enforcer Vorth backed away from his platform, his blue scales now pale with terror. His forearms reached for the plasma weapon at his belt, but before he could draw it, Hannah's voice cut through the air like a laser blade. "Computer, activate Emergency Justice Protocol 77 Alpha. Display all financial records for Enforcer." Vorth from the past 2 years, holographic displays filled the air showing bank accounts, credit transfers, and payment records that painted a picture of massive corruption. The numbers were staggering. Vorth had received over 2 million galactic credits from unknown sources, all traced back to the same crime syndicate that Hannah had destroyed 3 years earlier. "As you can see," Hannah continued, her voice now commanding the attention of every being in the room, "Enforcer Vorth has been receiving regular payments from the Crimson Nebula Syndicate, the same organization I exposed for running slave operations across 12 star systems, but the corruption went even deeper than anyone had imagined." Hannah activated another display showing communication records between Vorth and high-ranking officials throughout the hegemony command structure. The messages revealed a conspiracy to systematically frame human colonists for terrorism while selling them into slavery. "Computer, decode encrypted message thread designation Project Clean Sweep." Hannah ordered. The decoded messages appeared for all to see, and the contents sent shock waves through the alien audience. The conspiracy involved over 30 hegemony officials working together to eliminate human colonies throughout the Outer Rim. They planned to blame the humans for terrorism, then use the chaos to seize their valuable mining worlds and technological innovations. Admiral Zeta, one of the hegemony's highest-ranking military commanders, had written, "Phase 1 complete. Human colonies on Kepler 4b and Ross 128 successfully eliminated. Begin Phase 2 with New Geneva. Make sure the boy takes the blame. His engineering skills make him the perfect scapegoat." The revelation that Kai was specifically chosen as a target, not because he was guilty, but because he was smart enough to make the frame job believable, caused outrage even among the alien spectators who had been calling for his execution just minutes earlier. Judvex's electric tentacles crackled with barely controlled fury as she turned toward Vorth. "Enforcer, you will explain these communications immediately, or face summary execution for treason against the hegemony." Vorth tried to run, but his escape was blocked by security drones that had surrounded his platform. In desperation, he pulled out a small device that looked like a grenade. "If I'm going down, I'm taking this whole ship with me," he screamed. The device in his hand was a quantum destabilizer, a weapon capable of tearing holes in space-time. Itself, if activated inside the detention ship, it would create a black hole that would destroy everything within a 50-mile radius. But Hannah was already moving, in one fluid motion. She leaped from the main floor onto a floating platform, then used her momentum to jump from platform to platform like a human acrobat. The aliens watched in amazement as she demonstrated the incredible agility and quick thinking that made humans such formidable weapons. Hence, when they stopped pretending to be helpless, she reached Vorth's platform just as he was about to activate the destabilizer. Her hand shot out and grabbed his wrist with surprising strength, while her other hand delivered a precise strike to a nerve cluster that only someone with extensive knowledge of alien anatomy would care. How about Vorth collapsed, paralyzed but conscious. As the destabilizer fell from his nerveless fingers, Hannah caught the device and carefully disarmed it while the entire courtroom held its breath. Crisis averted, she announced calmly, as if disarming galaxy-ending weapons was just another day. At the office, the aftermath moved swiftly. Within hours, hegemony security forces were arresting corrupt officials across dozens of star systems. The conspiracy that had threatened to destroy human colonies throughout the galaxy was completely exposed, all because one brilliant lawyer refused to let her innocent brother face execution. Kai was not only freed, but officially declared a hero of the hegemony for his unwitting role in exposing the corruption. The engineering skills that had made him a target were now recognized as exactly the kind of innovation the galaxy needed. The Supreme Hegemony Council offered Hannah the position of Chief Interspecies Legal Advisor, with full authority to investigate corruption anywhere in their territory. For the first time in galactic history, a human would hold one of the highest positions in alien government, standing together on the observation deck of the tribunal ship. Hannah and Kai watched as transport vessels arrived to take the arrested conspirators to prison worlds. New Geneva colony glowed peacefully in the distance, safe from the forces that had tried to destroy it. So what happens now? Kai asked his sister. Hannah smiled as she looked out at the stars. Now we show the galaxy what humans can really do when we work together. The end.